Welcome back to the Black Swan Basketball Podcast presented by the Gerken Companies, along with Tori Strock and Dave Krause. Good to get you back from vacation, my friend.
It was a fun time, 25 days in fun and sun and surf and whatever, and I'm back to be back in Ohio. I brought some nice weather back for everybody.
You did. Appreciate that.
And fortunately, we still have some basketball to watch, so I missed some really good basketball, but at least we still have some, forthcoming.
Yeah. Joined this week by a couple of Putnam County icons, Kevin and Tyson McGlaughlin, the father-son duo that have had a great career down there in Putnam County, and we appreciate you guys joining us this week.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Obviously, one guy is in the middle of his career, the other guy is just assisting him right now. So we'll get into all that, and it's a really good, unique story.
How about, first of all, we're into the state tournament time, girls in the state finals, boys into the state semis. There's a lot of talk right now. 7 divisions where the state semifinals are being played. Anybody have some thoughts? I know you do, Coach Krause.
Well, my thoughts have always been all along. I was not a fan of the 7 divisions. I'm not sure a lot of people were. I'm not talking for everybody, but the old dinosaur in me says that was a hard thing to see. Let's just maybe try one at a time. Maybe we get to 7. Let's start with 5, and then if that needs to be developed further, let's go to 6. But no, they went whole hog and went 7, and they tried to pattern after football, and I get it. But it's a whole different thing.
But it's not football.
It's not apples to apples. It's certainly a different landscape, and I'm open to change. I'm not one of those guys that say it has to be this way, but. I just think that they just kind of went too fast, in a hurry, without a lot of thought.
Tori, you had a daughter that played in the Final Four a couple times, or should have a couple times.
Yeah.
You're missing that experience. You and I have talked off the show about this. You're missing that state tournament weekend. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah, and I was actually just telling Coach Krause as we were getting set up here, one of my probably my fondest sports memory as an athlete, coach, anything, was that weekend. In 2020, obviously, it got shut down as we were getting ready to play our semifinal game at St. John Arena. That's a topic for another day, though. You only get me fired up. Talk to me about that whole COVID handling. But anyway, then the following year, we were able to get back in UD Arena, Final Four weekend, beat Dayton Carroll on Friday afternoon, and then, Friday evening at the hotel, the community, the fans, the kids, what a festive environment, anticipating the championship game the next day and back to UD Arena and win the title, and just an unbelievable weekend I'll never forget. It's over. Kids and families, most importantly the kids, the families, what it does for the communities, it's inexplicable to me. And one of my best college buddies, is at the OHSAA, and so I try not to be too outspoken because of our relationship, but I think that's pretty cold. Just because I know what it meant to our community and my family and my daughter, it's a shame, honestly. But
well, Ty, you were just there a year ago, and you were there 4 straight years. Which was we'll get into that too, because that's a unique thing. Not too many teams have done what your teams have done over the years. Take us, give us your viewpoint on all this.
I kind of echo what you guys say. First and foremost, it is it's the state tournament weekend. And I think that's one thing that we're missing with this new format, let alone, going to 7 divisions, which I think it was crazy. I agreed. I thought there should be 5. I thought the disparity between Division I, between 320 kids to 1,400 kids, that's a steep battle. So I thought the extra division was needed, but to jump to 7, there's no turning back. It's going to be really hard to go back. So that part of it, I thought they could have planned out and really. Maybe a 3-year plan, and see the positives and negatives from that, and then readjust. But going back to, I just remember as a kid, it was the state tournament weekend. It was the atmosphere. It was the opportunity to go down there, and you heard about the big games and being able to be part of that. That's gone. I got a second grade son, and talking about the state tournament now compared to when I was that age, it's not the same. And I think we got to do something to get it back to one weekend. I hope, and I think they will look at this year and learn from it, because I think anybody that's paying attention sees the flaws right now, and you just hope that in the near future they get it back to at least on the same weekend.
So I hear second grade. So Dad, you took him to the state tournament in the second grade?
I did.
We had the sixth grade rule. We couldn't go until sixth grade for the whole weekend. Now
He was spoiled, though.
yeah, well,
He had one boy. He only had one to worry about.
well, there were three of us, and the one that kind of looks like me. If he wasn't around, we probably would have been able to go earlier. But he was the headache, so I could understand that. So
When you talk about this change that we've gone into with the formation of the tournament, I agree with what you said, Dave. I thought, why don't they go to 5 divisions first? And I don't know anyone, I've not spoken to anyone who doesn't feel that way. So the people who are in charge, I wonder sometimes who they're talking to. I know that it's a tough job, and I don't know that how many people would want to do it, but it's a difficult thing to make change, and when you go whole hog and jump straight to 7 the first jump, it's really difficult to take that back and back it up to 6 or 5. But I think if they tried the 5 first, they might have found out that was enough that it would take care of the problem that they were seeing. But I like the state tournament experience, and I think our kids are getting cheated when they can't go down for the weekend or for a couple nights and enjoy the fanfare and so forth that they get at the hotel. And I got to think that we're doing this for kids, and it seems like we're almost doing it for money. And I don't know that that's the case, but in my opinion, I've heard from some people that might be the reason they feel like they can make more money this way. And if that's the case, then perhaps they're getting what they want. But I think the kids are not getting what they want. When you play a game at Elida, and I think Elida is a fantastic place, but when you're playing a state semifinal game at Elida, and then you go home and wait a week to play the next game, that doesn't appear to me to be a state tournament experience, and the kids are missing out.
Ken couldn't say it any better. Couldn't say it any better.
Touch on that from a coaching perspective. Playing your state semifinal, then waiting a week. Would you rather play the next day or a couple days as opposed to this format?
I would rather play the next day. I think at this time of the year, you're tired of practicing. You know what you can do. You know what the other team can do. You've already scouted them. You prepare for them. You talk to your kids. If you have a caliber of team that you can be playing in the state tournament, they can make adjustments by how you speak to them and what you tell them to do. They've listened all year. So to me, to wait another year just prolongs a negative situation. I know if it's regular season or something, I might say, yeah, I wish I'd had more days to prepare. But when I'm talking state tournament experience, I'm talking about you've got to do that. You've got to be prepared to play that championship game the next day. And I don't know anyone who would say, oh, I don't want to play that state championship game the next day. I'd rather wait. No, you want to play. You want to play.
I mean, you go back to your regular season schedule. I mean, you play Friday, Saturday a year, how many weekends of the season? Often, right? Well, where the thing is now, and you did it because, sometime we might get fortunate enough to get to Columbus, and when you have to win back-to-back games or be involved in a quick turnaround like that, no, that's not even necessary. You don't. Why even schedule a Friday, Saturday anymore? I'd go Thursday, Saturday. I'd go Tuesday, Friday. I wouldn't go back to back during the regular season because that's just putting yourself in a situation that you'll never see again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good stuff.
we could talk on this all day, but we got more important things with these
Yeah,
two
I'll
guys.
tell you what, there's one more thing I want to throw out on this basketball thing that they've changed for state tournament, and it's the officiating. And it's not officiating per se, it's the availability of good officials to work that high level of a game. And I'm afraid that we're force-feeding some officials to referee in games that are much more high level than what maybe they're prepared to do at this time. And this is not a negative towards the officials at all. I'm just saying that there are so many more games to be played, and there aren't enough of the really good quality officials to referee those games, which once again is a negative for the players.
Absolutely.
So it's just another little thing to think about, I think.
Have you guys, do you remember in recent memory any topic that has gained this much traction as far as athletics in the state of Ohio as this tournament? Because I was thinking about that today. I don't recall anything getting this much attention or traction as this 7 division.
No, and I think that's what's absolutely horrible about the whole situation. We're not talking about the kids playing in the state semifinal or the state championships. We're talking about 7 divisions. We're talking about where we're playing games. We're losing focus of what's the important part, and that's the kids. And that's what it's not about complaining. It's about finding solutions. And I think that's one thing that I wish more people would do. It's easy to get behind your computer screen or get on the phone and talk about the OHSA this or that. Like, forget it. Let's find a way to make it better, because at the end of the day, that's not helping anybody. It's putting a bad taste in everybody's mouth, and we should be focusing on the kids.
Great point, Tyson.
Well said.
I think another thing too, before we let that go, are the playing sites, the venues that are used, and you've got to stretch things out so much that it's so thinly veiled that you've got people, and I know as we grew up, Dave, we would know, so-and-so, the Division II, Division III, Division IV, they play at Bowling Green, they play at Stroh Center, these play at Savage Hall, the districts are at Elida, Napoleon, and so on and so on. And you know which teams are in those, and you know where they're playing. You pretty much know the nights they're playing. And I'll tell you, this year, I didn't know. I didn't know who was playing, where they were playing, what division they were in. And I'm sure someone could say, well, get the computer out and check it. Well, yeah, I could do that, but to me, that's part of the experience. You just grow up with it, and you want it to continue that way. And I think we've lost some of that.
No doubt. Well said.
Yeah, good stuff, guys.
Let's start with you, Kevin. When did basketball get into your blood, and when did basketball become a big interest for you?
No, you're talking childhood?
Yeah, go way back to the beginning. Yeah, go way back.
Put that hat on.
Whoa.
Well, I know I used to ride my horse up and park it.
Where were we? Alger, McGuffey, or Roundhead?
I was in Alger.
Okay, I could tell that.
And I lived next door to a guy named Steve Longbrake. And Steve and I both played for Steve Kick. And we had some great experiences with our basketball in high school. But Steve and I grew up together, and we played a lot of basketball like most kids would do. You'd get the snow in the winter, and you'd shovel it off so you could shoot the ball and play some games. But, it kind of gets into your system. You enjoy it, and you like the competition. And as you get through, junior high to high school, you have the opportunity to compete with a higher level of competition. And we were fortunate to be successful. And when I mention Steve Kick, I think I'm mentioning one of the finest gentlemen I've ever known, and we've lost him. And it's sad that he's gone, but he lives on because he made such an impression on us. And that's the kind of thing, if you're in this thing long enough, that you do a good job as a player and maybe get to coach, and you, just like I think of Steve being a great person, I'm hoping someday maybe one of my players will think that of me. So it kind of goes full circle, and but it's a great thing, the competitive level and the people you learn to know or you get to know along the way, and it's just there's a multitude of friendships that are grown from playing the game.
Absolutely. The astute basketball fan, when I mentioned Alger, McGuffey, or Roundhead, would know, well, that's Upper Scioto Valley. So that's where we're talking about, the Upper Scioto Valley School District, what was the first year of the school?
66.
And Coach Steve Kick was the first basketball coach.
First coach
and
that
you
we hired.
graduated in
71.
71. And he had a couple of good regional teams. Were you part of those?
I was. I I know we've had some battles with Archbold over the years, and one of my finer moments in high school was playing Archbold in the regional tournament at the University of Toledo, and we went into overtime. Dylan Badenhop and a Marilat and a Greiser, I don't know how you pronounce it.
Greaser.
But yeah, those guys were on the team, and we played them into an overtime, and we had Steve Longbrick I talked about. He missed a shot, and I rebounded and scored at the buzzer, and we won the game. So those people from Archbold that hate me because I'm at Ottawa-Glandorf, they have more reason to hate me.
Well, what happens then is, this gentleman, Steve Kick, that Coach referred to, was later recruited and was brought to Patrick Henry as Patrick Henry was a beginning school, and he was the first coach there. So this guy did it at the Upper Soda Valley and built something really special, and he was the originator of the Patrick Henry basketball program as well. And I was fortunate enough to play for him, and so I echo everything you say about him. There was nobody greater in terms of being a person and a basketball coach and just a gentleman. And so Kevin and I, we've always shared that common factor there over the years.
Never knew that.
Yeah. So we had the same high school coach, and he was a dandy. That was for darn sure.
What year did PH open? It's 69?
It was 69-70, so it was right, year right before then, yeah.
Yeah, Coach Kick had 4 years at Upper Soda Valley, and in those 4 years, I think he was 84-13, and had just great success. You talk about what I remember growing up and going through the playing days and so forth. I can still remember he had a thing where you could not have hair longer than an inch. Your hair had to be cut short, and he had this thing that he called love laps. We had some guys that were tight with their girlfriends, and if he saw you walking with your girlfriend down the hall during school after practice, you had to run laps just for walking down the hall with her. So there's a lot of things that you remember, some really stupid like that, but it's a fond memory.
Did he ever have a toothpick?
Always.
He was noted for his toothpick, and it was the red Auerbach signal for him. At the end of the game on the bench, when the game was wrapped up and it was a winning moment, he'd reach into his pocket and he'd pull out that toothpick, and that was his cigar, like signifying a W. So, and then on the bus home, he'd get up and he'd make some comments, and he'd say, and remember how sweet it is after a win. So I'll never forget that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, his win percentage there at USV, those are like Tyson McGlaughlin numbers. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
And he echoed it. He duplicated the Patrick Henry. He had an unbelievable record, and like we said, we lost him way too early. And he would tell you, even though he went from Patrick Henry to Kenton and had success eventually, he had some tough years early there, but he would tell you that maybe one of his mistakes was leaving Patrick Henry. He wishes maybe he had a redo, but things work out. He's a Hall of Famer, and he's a Hall of Famer even before they made him one. In my book.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Kevin had a glory moment there with that buzzer beater. Did you have any of those in your days at PH, Coach Krause?
Yeah, we had a few, but
did you?
Not that me as a player.
No, that's what I meant. By you as a player.
No. It was we had really good teams. Coach loved to press and go up and down the court. My senior year, after I think 10, 11 games, we were averaging like 90 points a game. We were up and down, and teams started to figure out, well, you better zone them because they're just going to go. And then we ended up averaging maybe 78, 80 then, but. He liked to go. And he was probably one of the first guys on Thursdays. I don't know if he did this with you guys, Kevin, but he'd play Sweet Georgia Brown over the loudspeaker, and we did our little warm-ups to Sweet Georgia Brown, like a three-man weave, and he'd join us and he'd dunk. And I'm going, wow, Coach can dunk. I can hardly touch the rim. It was impressive.
I can't say that he did that with us, but maybe he got a little softer as he left Upper and went to Patrick Henry.
Yeah, there we go.
But
there we go.
I'm sure it was enjoyable.
It was a great time.
Interesting. I know Lee Heminger at Ayersville, he played something like that. I don't remember the exact song. One of my Ayersville colleagues will have to tell me, but I remember them talking about that too. Must have been the older coaches, I guess.
So So Tyson, you never had the pleasure of playing for Dad then, is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Yeah.
He wasn't a good enough recruiter.
NIL money wasn't worthy, huh?
No, it was one of those things that, it crossed our mind, and it was one of those conversations. And, I give Dad a lot of credit because he never once put pressure on me. I got more pressure from outside sources. And, I played a lot of ball growing up with a couple guys. One of my best friend right now, Aaron Lammers at Miller City. And, we were really close and played a lot of ball together. And, I remember my 8th grade year, starting to think a little bit more of it. And he came into my room, I think it was the day of their banquet, and just said, that was pretty much the only time we ever really talked about it, just asked me, I got the awards banquet tonight. Do you have an interest in coming over? He goes, if you do, great. If not, we'll never really talk about it again. And I just couldn't leave my friends. And, that was the only time he ever really said anything about it. And I know that was tough for him. But at the same time, I think he understood where we were at. And, the group that we had at OG was a pretty good group as well. So not an easy decision, but one that, luckily for me, I didn't have that extra pressure to make that choice.
So so when that decision, he goes into 9th grade, is that when you decided to no longer coach at Miller City, correct? About that same time?
Yeah, that was when I resigned from Miller City, when Ty went into his freshman year and he was on the JV team, and I was not going to miss watching him play. And that was one of the things I had looked forward to my entire life, was to watch my son play basketball. And Ty was a pretty good player, so that made it, even that much more fun. You would think, giving a kid room and board and a car, some money along the way, that maybe he'd consider.
That first car I drove wasn't very damn nice. So it wasn't a real good bargaining chip.
That's classic. That's classic.
Yeah.
Believe me, Mac and Rita's was all in. He'd had free food at Mac and Rita's for as long as he wanted it. But he didn't want to talk about it too much, and I didn't want to pressure him. But I really would have liked that. But, like you mentioned Aaron Lammers, of course. Aaron was at Miller City, and that would have been we'd had a pretty good team there, but he didn't want to do it. So that's okay. But
So, Kevin, if Tyson would have made the move to Miller City, that would have prolonged your coaching career, obviously, right?
it's possible that if he had come to Miller City, that I might still be at Miller City.
Yeah.
Because I retired, obviously, but I'm still coaching with Ty.
Sure.
And if I don't know what
Yeah,
would have happened, but
absolutely.
I could have just continued coaching there, and that would have been a possibility.
Well, the way I look at it, and I'm jumping on Tyson's side here, you know, he kind of repays you because you didn't pay a cent for his college.
I didn't pay for his tuition.
Okay.
I had to pay for some other things along the way.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about, the actual education
But
piece
I got
of
you.
it. Yeah.
You're right.
Kevin,
You're right.
the year you retired, Marty Zender took over, and I was his varsity assistant my senior year at Bluffton College, and so I remember Aaron Lammers very well. Oh, yeah. He was only a freshman then. Mm-hmm. He's your exact grade?
Yeah.
Ty?
Yep.
Yeah, he was kind of a prodigy. He was really good freshman, great kid. That's what I remember even more. Just a top shelf guy. But speaking of Mac and Rita's, we had some nightcaps at Mac and Rita's that year. I'll tell you that.
They're willing to serve those.
Yeah. Oh, they did.
That was fun.
Tyson, was coaching always something that you wanted to do, or when did that kind of enter your mind?
Yeah, I think I knew when I was probably 8 years old that that's something that I just wanted to do. I love being in the gym. I was one of those, sometimes I think that the phrase a gym rat's kind of overused, but there wasn't anything about being in the gym that I didn't like. I love just the idea of competition. I love the idea of pushing people to be the best they can be. And I think as a player, I think I kind of had that in my mind as well. I just think from the mental side of things, of just trying to get everybody on the same page, it was just something that, it was intrigued me. And, So I don't think there was any doubt as I got older. That's what I wanted to do. Is just, I have some really good people to follow, between my dad and, Coach Sweet, and then obviously going to the University of Findlay with Coach Niekamp. I was just a sponge and, just trying to, kind of soak all those things in, and, getting an opportunity was, what I was just kind of waiting for.
And you kind of led right into my next question, was what were some things in particular that you maybe took from hanging around Dad and all those years, and then moving on with Coach Sweet and Coach Niekamp? Anything you can recollect that you've kind of incorporated in your own style or coaching?
Yeah, I think there are always things that I think you learn that you like from each coach, or, I need to do this, but there's also things that's not me. And that was the hardest thing for me to do as a head coach, was trying not to be somebody else, and finding your own identity. He's more of a Bobby Knight, intense, this is how it is, old school mentality. And, that's not me. I'd say I'm probably a little bit more of a player's coach than what he is. But you got to find that what works. And I'll tell you what, the best piece of advice I ever got was probably from Bob Sagerson. And he sent me a letter after I got my first job at Miller City. And in that letter, he said something along the lines of, my one piece of advice is, don't try to be Kevin McGlaughlin. Don't try to be Dave Sweet. Don't try to be Ron Niekamp. Be Tyson McGlaughlin.
That's awesome.
And, that was something that really stuck with me, because my first couple years at Miller City and OG, like those players now, when I talk to them, they call me I'm so soft on these guys now, because I was really, really intense, and I still am an intense guy, but like, I went to the nth degree because I thought that's what a head coach did. You yell and you scream at guys. That's what you're supposed to do to get your point across. And I think it was about my second year at OG, I started to realize, like, I can't do this. It's not me. And eventually I think people would have saw through that. And so I just kind of stuck with my guns and try to be who I am. And I think it's one of those things that I think if you ask my players now, I think they have a pretty good idea of who Tyson McGlaughlin is as a person and as a coach.
Well, as we can get into Findlay real quick, but as you left Findlay, you got into your first teaching job and your first coaching job at
Ottawa-Glandorf. And my first teaching job was at Liberty Benton.
And then you went to Glandorf, but you got your head coaching job at
Miller City.
So it comes back full circle. Dad was around, but he wasn't. You weren't playing for him, but now you ended up coaching.
It was kind of a funny story. We came back from the state tournament after like my, second or third year at OG, and I came home and I just said, Miller City job opened up, and I said, I think I'm going to apply for the Miller City job. And he kind of laughed and was like, yeah, okay. And I'm going to apply for the job, but only on one condition. And he kind of looked at me like I was, BSing him. I go, but you got to be my assistant. And I don't think he liked the idea of him being an assistant, especially to me. Like that was like not going to happen. And then I think he realized that I was serious. And I thought it was really important for me and him to do that together. If you know anything about like our background, I lost my mom, his wife, during our, basically through high school and into college, and that was a rough spot for all of us. And I thought it was important for us to do something together. Now, I didn't think it would last this long. I didn't even know if it would work. To be honest with you, we're not on the same page, or we don't always agree, which is great for a head coach and assistant. But it's probably been the best thing, for us as a father and a son, to be able to do, because I think it's brought us a lot closer together.
So, Kevin, when you heard that his asking you to be the assistant, what was your reaction to that?
Well, I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I could be an assistant coach at the time for anyone, let alone my own son. And it worked out well. It's been a really good thing. And I found out real quick, when I was helping, the first year I was helping, I knew when I called timeout instead of him, I wasn't the head coach anymore. But it was one of those that I'm just used to being in control, and it was hard to relinquish
Absolutely.
all that to him, which was absolutely the right thing to do. But and I do want to also say that, it's been a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But when Ty talks about the people that influenced him, his mom,
Yeah.
that was number one. And she battled leukemia for 5 years, and it just happened to be through Ty's high school and then a first year of college. She passed, I think, your second year. But that was tough. She was his biggest fan, and that was his biggest push.
Oh yeah, I remember her at games.
Oh, yeah.
She got into games now.
She didn't sit there and be
No,
quiet.
she got into her games.
Tyson, I want to go back to something you mentioned, talked about how much you love being in the gym, okay? And you've had, in your young career, you've had quite a bit of tournament success, right? And then I know it's great and stuff, but boy, some of those seasons get really long and it's a grind. Did you ever get to a point when you're making runs to Columbus and Dayton where you're going, God, man, this is taking it out of me. This is tough. Or did you just love every minute of it?
I think I loved every minute of it. It's ironic though. I bet you 4 of the last 5 years after those runs, I've been sick.
Yeah.
Like immediately after, like our whole family, because it is, you guys know it, when you coach, it's not just you as the person, it takes a toll on the whole family. Everybody's invested, everybody's involved. I mean, it's just like, it's so like on the clock, just the body wears down, and it kind of tells you what's going to happen, but not really. I really enjoy what I do. Like I truly enjoy. So I try. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of expectations at Ottawa-Glandorf. Like there's no shying away from that. We this last season, we graduated an awful lot. We didn't have the success that people are used to, and you feel that. But that's what it's all about. We have an expression within our program: embrace the bullseye, and I think that's what motivates me. That's what just keeps me going. Like our season was over, like I got our guys ready. Like our guys are ready to go, and that's just I'm just wired, that way. And that's just kind of how I go.
Yeah.
Well, you certainly stepped into a unique. There's a lot of good basketball jobs out there across the state, but I would say, if I had to pinpoint particularly in this area of the neck of the woods, Ottawa-Glandorf is the best basketball job that we have. I don't care what division, what level, etc. And you're the sole keeper of it right now. But like you mentioned, there's some guys there that, boy, you talk about Ron Niekamp. All he did was initially knock the door down to get to Columbus. Didn't get the big gold trophy, but at least he made it possible.
Right.
Set that mindset, and then Coach Sweet comes after him. He gets a championship. Dave leaves. Josh Leslie comes in. He gets one. You came in year one.
Second year we
Second
got it.
year.
First year we
Yeah,
got
got
there.
there.
Second year
Second
we got it.
So you got yours, and you've been knocking on the door for so many times since then.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a machine, and it's a program that has earned the respect of basketball people all across the state for sure. So.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm the first one to admit that I got into a very fortunate situation. It's a passionate place. The pressure's there, but we got kids at work, and like so many places around here, our parents let us coach our kids. Like we are hard on our kids. We are very demanding on our kids. And in my 15 years of coaching, I've had one parent have a meeting with me. One parent, and that wasn't even, it was about a JV situation. It wasn't even, so, I think that's a credit to, to everybody within our system. They know how we go about things, and they're gonna, every parent wants their kid to play more. I get that, but at the same time, I think our parents understand that, we're going to do what's best for our team and for our kids, and I think they're pretty much on board with that.
Well, as I mentioned, those three coaches prior to you, you're the guy though that grew up in that town.
Yeah.
It's your alma mater.
Yeah.
That has to make it extra special.
It does, and I think that's something that I have firsthand, knowledge and of the people, of the system, of how things have worked, and and it's a blessing, and sometimes it can be a curse, as well, because everybody, and but at the same time, like I said, basketball is really important. It's going to stay important, and we get the support that we need to hopefully keep this thing going.
Well, I can just share this with you about how much reverence in my household with my 3 boys that OG basketball program has. And here's how it works. Oldest one, Kyle, he was our point guard on our state championship team, so he's got a state championship ring. Youngest son, Mark, was a football player, and they garnered a state championship, so he's got a state championship ring. But the middle son, Eric, who was a good athlete, he's your age.
Yeah.
You guys battled a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And went to Findlay together,
Yep.
so he goes to Findlay and played football, but he never got that state championship ring. So you know how brothers are, there'll be times as, it doesn't happen anymore, but because Eric put a stop to it. But the conversation would say, "Hey, Eric, how's your state championship ring?" And it would be a little bit of razzing going on, and Eric would take it. He would take it. He's kind of a mild kid, but he would take it. And then he finally said one time, he goes, "Look, guys, yeah, you got your state championship rings, but I guarantee you, you're 0 and whatever against OG, and I got 2 wins against him." And that's shut him up, man.
I can believe him saying that
End of conversation.
too. Yep.
So that's how much reverence to the OG program. It's equal to a state championship.
That's great. Let me take a break here and we'll come right back.
Who says a college degree is the only path to a fulfilling career? At the Gerken Companies, we offer rewarding livelihoods with or without a degree. Gerken provides a generous benefits package, continuous training, top-notch equipment, and a culture that rewards effort. We're looking for rock-solid performers to help build and reinforce the region's infrastructure. Whether you have construction experience or are just starting your career, apply now at gerkencompanies.com/careers.
American Freedom Energy and Grandma's General Store off Route 24 on State Route 109, just south of Liberty Center, now has 88 unleaded fuel and is your one-stop shop for fuel, food, drinks, and much, much more, including locally raised meats and home-baked goods. American Freedom Energy and Grandma's General Store is proud to support Black Swamp Football and is the host of the Black Swamp Football podcast, football show, and Saturday mornings Rise and Rewind. Stop in and see Glenn and Greg today and make American Freedom Energy and Grandma's General Store a part of your everyday routine. Welcome back to the Black Swamp Basketball Podcast presented by the Gerken Companies. Thank you to Glenn and Greg Badenhop, also here at American Freedom Energy, for their hospitality and hosting us each week. We'll have one more show next week, guys, and I think that'll wrap up our basketball season.
Sounds good, but it's been fun.
It's been great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's been good.
Kevin, let's real quick jump back to you side. Ty talked about his influences, that he played for some really special people. What about your side? You mentioned Coach Kick. Anybody else that you learned from that you took into your coaching, which was a really good 20 how many years you'd had, and a lot of 4 district championships, and you were knocking on the door a couple times.
Yeah, we were fortunate to get to the regional championship game twice, and one time we ran into LCC and they had a really nice team, and the other time we ran into St. Henry, who had Bobby Hoying, and they had 5 D1 players in the starting lineup, not all in basketball but football, but they were really good. We never quite made it, so when I was able to hook on with Ty as an assistant coach and made it to Columbus this first year, or at OG, well, that's pretty cool. I've never been able to go down there and sit on the floor, but thanks, Ty. I'll ride along here. But Coach Kick was a huge influence for me. I mean, he did so many things. I had a little discipline coming through junior high, and when I got to high school and he was there and in charge, he laid down the law on discipline and what should be and what shouldn't be. And along with Coach Kick, my friend I was talking about, who was 2 years older than me, Steve Longbrigg, I followed him a lot. He just was a great role model, and the things that he did, I would try to follow suit. And I felt really comfortable that I was going in a positive direction by following the lead of him. I think it's one of those things that You know, you just are doing it as you're growing up, and you don't realize it as much till you look back and think, what influenced me to do such and such a thing? But there are key people in your life as you're growing up that definitely have that influence.
For sure.
Tyson, talk about what you do in the off season. Number one, you got to recharge the batteries a little bit in that, but I know you're a guy that wants to improve each and every off season. Are you a big clinic guy? Do you like sitting down with other coaches? What are some things you do to improve?
I'm not a huge clinic guy anymore. I'd rather go to schools and watch practices. I think it's a little bit more game-like. I think a lot of times in clinics, I mean, you can pick up a couple things here and there, but I think a lot of times for me, the clinics were more as a social gathering amongst coaches to, just to hang out and relax. If you picked up something, great. But like going to watch somebody practice and find some things that they do in practice that you could maybe implement into your day-to-day operations, I think is really important. I'm just big on just consistency. I think in the off season, especially with our guys, I think that's the time you build the relationships, and I think that's you find out who really wants it. You find out how hard people are willing to work, and that's. We just had our postseason meetings last week, and we're pretty darn blunt with our guys, and it's easy to say it, and they're good those first couple weeks when you can start those workouts up, but are they willing to do that consistently? So nowadays, I mean, there's so many different resources that you have out there at your disposal. You tap into as many as you can, but at the end of the day, it's about getting guys in the gym and wanting to be in there, and if we can do that, usually good things happen.
Kevin, are your practices when you were coaching, are they similar to his? Give me some thoughts there.
Not really. When I was coaching, it was I was very, and I think Ty's picked up on it a little bit, but my practice schedule, I had it minute by minute. Everything that I did in that practice, I had written down, and we did it. And if we got done, I was going to do this drill or this whatever for 6 minutes. When that 6 minutes was up, that was it, and we moved on to the next thing because I wanted to get certain things covered. I walk into the gym with Ty sometimes, and I don't know what the heck's going on. And he just kind of floats and rolls, and I just kind of pick up on it and try to add a few things here and there if I can. But the style of coaching between he and I is much different. And he mentioned earlier that he's not one to be a hellraiser. That's just not the way he is. And I respect that, and I wish I'd been more like Ty, actually, because I really came down hard on kids. and I wouldn't, the kids that come up to me and say, Coach, that's the best thing, I needed that so bad, and I'm so glad you did that. And I look back at that and I think, I should have been fired. I mean, the things that I would say and the way I would yell at the kids, and it's just not the way that I feel now that it should have been. And there was success with it, and there were kids who appreciated it. But after being with him, and I really don't see that kind of an outburst from him, very seldom. And there's times when he's come up to me during practice and said, Dad, chill a little bit.
Kevin, would you be okay with somebody coaching your grandson the way you coach those kids at Miller City?
Probably not. I would probably be a little upset.
Yeah.
I just feel that there were times, I mean, most of the time I'd say sure, but there were times when I really went off. It probably wasn't a good thing.
Tyson, what you lasted 4 years playing under your dad, or would you been transferring back?
That should have been the real question when you asked me about going to Miller City or not. I would have handled it just fine, I'm sure. My mom would have saved me. She would have made sure Dad was in line on that. But it's just how it was. And I think things were different. 25 years ago. I just think the approach, the communication. And I think it's still needed, and he can still put the fear in God in some of our guys, and it's a good assistant.
It's good to have a bad cap sometimes,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
He likes me to be the tough guy sometimes, then he can just be Mr. Nice Guy. But
Kevin,
he said that I never played, or he never played for me, which he never did, except that I remember one a summer thing. And I was coaching his team. I don't know, you were probably
Like 7th, 8th grade.
7th or 8th grade. And I had just told him, I don't know what it was anymore. And he didn't do it. And I was so furious. And I ran down toward the end of the bench, which were folding chairs. And he was down at the end of the gym. And I picked up one of those folding chairs. And he thought I was going to throw it at him.
I said Bobby Knight. Like,
I absolutely was not going to, but he thought that. But no, I didn't coach him a lot. And a lot of the things that I did were good for me. And like I say, I regret a little bit of that. Not all of it. It was good. But there are always moments that you'd like to take back. But
Well, I appreciate your candor because a lot of us during that same era were coaching a similar way. So I wouldn't be as honest as you are right now.
Kevin, Tyson talked about how great the parents are at OG.
Yeah.
They let those guys coach those kids. And I have to believe the guys like Mike Otto and Randy Siefker and some of the great ones you coached, I got to believe at Miller City, they let you coach those kids as well, right?
absolutely. Mike is now working as an assistant coach on the boys team over there, and I just ran into Randy just a couple days ago at a volleyball thing. So I still see these guys, and you know, speaking about Randy, there were times when if I wanted to get a point across that the rest of the kids maybe weren't getting, I would get Randy before practice, and I would say, as soon as this comes up, I'm going to rip you. I'm going to tear you to shreds because I know you can handle it. And if I take you apart, the rest of them listen. I don't have to do it to all of them. So, you know, you find out, you work with kids and you learn what they can do. And, you know, I go golfing about every week with Jeff Hermiller, who was a really good player. And these guys are a lot of fun, and it's great to have those kind of guys come back and still want to be around you. That makes it for me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's great.
You guys have been involved in a couple of the Putnam County communities. Why is basketball such a tradition, so great what it is in Putnam County?
I don't know if I have a great answer for that, but when I moved to Ottawa was in 1975, fall of 1975. And the people that I got to know at Miller City at that time, basketball was everything. I mean, you didn't have soccer, you didn't have softball, you didn't have a lot of the other things. And basketball was king, and that was what everyone did. And I mean, you immediately, when you go up to Mac and Rita's, you go up there and they want to talk basketball, and they'll be remembering the tournaments against Glandorf and against Kalida and they replay those games to this day. They replay
And
those
that
games.
1950 state championship team.
Absolutely.
Norris Simpson gets brought up.
Norris Simpson's name often comes to the top, and they talk about that potbelly stove in there that they use for heat. And then, you know, Dan Kern, which you guys I think know, Dan has put together several books about the history of Miller City and Putnam County and different sports. And a lot of these things that we could talk about, Dan has in writing, and it's just an unbelievably large amount of information. But it's just always been basketball over there, and baseball. I mean, obviously baseball. But, you know, the smaller schools in Putnam County, there's 5 of them. The 5 there don't have football. Lipsick and Columbus Grove do, and Pandora. But the other 5 don't have football, and it's just king. Basketball rules. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Tyson, what do you have to say about the whole Putnam County?
Yeah, I think that's, you know, what he said is right. I mean, every school doesn't have football. The schools that do have football, you know, they play in other leagues outside the county. You know, so I just think, you know, Putnam County, well, let's be honest, there's not a lot else to do. You know, you go Friday, Saturday night to watch your team play, and, you know, that's the entertainment of the night, and that's the way it's been. You know, we got unbelievable crowds, you know, and just speaking for Ottawa-Glandorf, you know, I'll take our our attendance, and not just basketball, just in athletics in general against anybody, in Northwest Ohio, maybe Ohio. And, just people enjoy watching their student athletes. Everybody knows everybody. I think the connections are really strong, and, they just go out and support.
Well, we talked about the state tournament experience, when I don't care what boys, girls, whatever, it doesn't matter, but when you can go to the varsity club back in the day, and there was not a Putnam County team in the tournament for that given year, but there'd be a ton of Putnam County people in there. Of course, it was an establishment, and they found it, but that's what they do there. But doggone it, when a Putnam County team was there, it was on. It was wild, and they love it. Man.
It was A and B,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Tyson, when you left OG, you chose the University of Findlay right down the road. What was the attraction of the Oiler program?
I went through that recruiting process, and I was like the number 2 guy on about 4 or 5 different MACs list, and 4 of the 5 were very, very honest and upfront with me the whole time that this guy is in front, and and I, at the end of the day, after a while, I was sick of doing the waiting game. I knew a couple people that were playing at the University of Findlay. They switched to Division II. I knew I wouldn't have to pay for my college or anything like that. And about in the fall, Coach Niekamp actually saw my sister walking. She went to the university and asked something about myself, and he thought that I had committed to Bowling Green, and that ended up not happening. And she's like, no, he's not. And long story short, Coach reached out. I came on campus, met with another Ottawa-Glandorf. Ryan Mag was there, and a couple guys that I knew really well. We had a great time. And when I got there, it just clicked. I remember walking out and telling Mom and Dad, I was like, I'm going Findlay. Like, it was just something about it. I'm a small town guy. I like the idea of being 30 minutes away. Was far enough to be away from home, but close enough that I could get home whenever I needed to be. I like the small school aspect. It just checked a lot of the boxes that I needed, and just that reassurance when I went there, my mind was made up.
Yeah. Certainly a program that almost parallels what you're used to, because that community supports basketball as good as anybody at that level, and you had some good teams.
Oh, we did.
Talk about some of those teams.
We had some great teams, and just great guys. I think the big thing for me was I wanted to go to a place where I like the idea of building relationships with the guys and not having to be a revolving door. I wanted guys that I was similar with. These are my best friends. We got along with everybody. The one thing that I loved about Findlay was, Coach, he brought in guys that fit his system, but we just clicked, and there was something about that. And I think our guys had a lot to do with that as well. You talked about Eric earlier. When I got to Findlay, it was kind of like the basketball guys were together, and then the football guys were together, and how it was very cliquey. And our group came in, and it was the exact opposite. We were all pulling for each other, and it made it, I don't want to say a high school environment, but everybody knew everybody, and everybody was happy for each other's success. And I think that just made our experience so much more enjoyable. And like I said, when I look back at my decision, it was definitely the best one for me.
Yeah.
Tyson, talk about balancing your coaching duties with being the athletic director and things like that. I mean, that can't be easy. And Kevin, you were the principal, right, at Miller City for a time when you were the basketball coach, so you can touch on that too. But, boy, you wear a lot of different hats, Tyson.
Yeah, that was one of those things. I knew that probably being in the classroom for 35 years wasn't going to be for me. I love sports. I love just Ottawa-Glandorf athletics in general, and I think at first, like many people, when they think of an AD, they think of the guy that just goes to the games. They don't realize all the grunt work that goes behind it, and some of these days are miserable. But I'd say the one thing that I have, in my favor, I got a great support staff. I got multiple people that, cover different things. Our administration supports as far as I don't have to be at every single game. I get them covered. I'm at as many as I can, but that pressure to be everywhere it can't happen. I'm a father first and foremost. I got 4 kids, so having 4 kids, being an AD, being a basketball coach, those things don't happen without having support from your administration, from your family. So I got really lucky with my position. Like I said, being an AD, I don't think people realize the little things that go on behind the scenes. But I feel fortunate to have as many people help with different things, so it doesn't really just bombard you.
Very good.
I think I was principal my last 20 years, and that's the high school, 7 through 12. And in a lot of schools, this would not even it wouldn't be thought of at all. You could not do it. In our school, the size of it being so small and having the people around me that had been there for so many years and had worked with me, I had a lot of help. And if I needed someone to cover something, I never had a problem. So a lot of what Ty just said. But in a small school where you have, I think at that time, we were averaging about 40 students in a class. And, we had great academics. Our kids always did extremely well. Our teachers did a great job in preparing our students, and the achievement level was very high. And I think as long as that continued, then I was able to continue athletically at the same time. And it never became a problem. So, it worked out well for me. And I'm very thankful, very, very much so that I was able to do that.
Kevin, did you ever have the urge to go back to being a head coach?
Yeah, I did. I thought about it, and it was just difficult. After I got out, I resigned so that I could watch Ty, and then I watched Ty for 4 years, and then he goes to Findlay, and then the first year he ended up redshirting because he injured his knee. So there's 5 more years. So there's 9 years there that, it's kind of left more of a gap than what I expected. And then when he, it was my last, I had 1 more year before retirement when he asked me to help him. So I was getting a taste of it again then, and then I retired, and we had 1 more year at Miller City. And then I retired, and I was with him throughout that time. I thought about getting back in it, and every once in a while a job would open that I thought, I think I could do that, and I just was not able to pull the trigger. I was in a good situation. If I hadn't been working with Ty, and having great success doing it, that would have been more likely. But I was having fun, so it didn't matter. I mentioned earlier, though, that had I not gotten out of coaching and stayed in it and got him to come to Miller City, I may still be at Miller City coaching. And the fact that I'm still coaching with him makes me wonder if I would have or not.
You'd be chasing Cordell's record.
Start
I'd
calling
have
you.
to get me a maroon jacket.
How about those battles with the King? He's a special guy now, and the success he had over the years. Give us your best Coach Quartercraft story.
Well, I'll tell you.
Because everybody has one.
We had some great battles, and the guy was so fundamental with everything he did, and I scouted them so many times in the preparation for him that I ended up taking so much from him and instilling it in my own team, my own players, on how to post up, the block out situation, and that kind of thing. And he was just a wonderful, wonderful coach. And I do remember, this was 1983, I believe. We were good, they were good. It was like we were both undefeated in about the 10th or 11th game of the year. We were at Kaleida, and we stunk. We shot 19%, and obviously we lost. And the fans from Kaleida, for some reason, were giving me a lot of extra encouragement, yeah.
Kind of like OG people do to their opposing coaches.
Pretty much. And when I went up to Dick, shook hands after the game, I kind of held on to his hand and wouldn't let him go. And I just had a couple comments that I wanted to make, and he looked at me and he started to walk away, and I kind of held on a little longer, and then the fans on the other side, their encouragement got a little bit louder, and so it wasn't anything big, but it was just one of those things. The rival was so great, and the teams at that time were so competitive, and it was just one of those nights when you'd like it to go a little better, but didn't happen.
Kevin, along those same lines, one of the questions we like to ask is, and Corda would be one at the top of your list. Tyson, this question would go for you as well. Talk about some of the coaches that were super tough to prepare against because you knew their kids were going to be prepared. Tough guys to beat. Who are some of those guys aside from Coach Corda Cracks?
Yeah, I think the preparation part, you always knew certain people were going to be prepared and they were going to have you scouted, and you had to have an extra wrinkle available if at all possible. But with one guy that was just a legend, and we played him off and on, not every year, but Bob Arnzen at Delphi St. John's, and Bob's just, those kids just came at you with like they had a license to mug you, and they just seemed to dig and claw, and if you weren't physical, you just didn't have a chance. Right. And so you'd have to really prepare, for the physicality that's coming your way. And they were nice kids and all that, but Bob's kids played really hard, and it was always fun to play teams like that, but yeah, that was one that was always difficult. We had a situation with Bob in the district tournament one year, and I think it was 83 or 84, something like that. Might have been 80, it was 85. But at the end of the game, the score was tied, and there was a foul against them, and so we were getting ready to shoot the foul. He calls timeout, and the official went ahead and allowed, it was Jeff Hermiller, to shoot the foul shot. We made them both. Well, then Bob comes out and says, you can't let him have those shots. You can't let him shoot those foul shots until the game, or until we have our timeout. I bought the timeout, right? I've got the timeout, so I've got to get my time. Well, the official took those 2 points off the board, and we had to reshoot them, and he made one. And it was a 1-point game, and we had to inbound the ball. They stole the ball and had the last shot and missed it.
Oh man.
So yeah, there are things that you remember over the years that, wow, that I sometimes wondered, is there any way that would have been changed if it hadn't been Bob Arnzen?
Yeah.
Maybe Dave Krause.
No.
Yeah. There's a good chance of that. Ty, some guys that are really tough to beat.
We've had, certain teams that we've had our run-ins, especially, you talk about the postseason. OG and LCC has been just a massive rivalry over the years, and with big-time tournament,
Mm-hmm.
implications. Obviously I didn't go head-to-head against Coach Segerson, but with Frank Kill, I think my first 4 years at OG, that game was either the regional semifinal or regional final. And just, you talk about some athletes out on the court, that was always a tough game. Kirk Lehman's guys at Defiance, that was always a battle. They just offensively spread you out and, so well. And then, we've been fortunate enough to have some runs and play some really good teams in the state tournament. I tell you, between Afrocentric and Lutheran East, and I could go on for stories about both of those teams, but the athleticism, and they're really well coached. And he was talking about strong physical teams, trying to get the chess match that we had to use to be competitive in those games. You would talk about why you coach, it's for those moments. For us to be in those games, we got to do a lot of things right, and trying to get enough time and to get our guys to buy into those. Those teams are, they're playing at that late in March for a reason.
Yeah.
Another one of our staple questions. Gyms that you enjoyed playing in, coaching in, and then maybe some gyms that you absolutely hate playing, coaching in, guys.
Staple question.
You want to go first?
No.
Gyms that I love, the Elida Fieldhouse is a great place for a game. I think the Stroh Center is a great place for a game. Gyms that maybe I don't desire quite as much. I don't mind watching games at the Salina Fieldhouse, but man, playing at the Salina Fieldhouse is miserable. That's not one of my favorite places. But I like the environments that we have here in Northwest Ohio. But I do think the Elida Fieldhouse on a packed night, that place is pretty special. And then Anderson Arena was the best. I mean, that place was the house that roars. I mean, that place for a tournament game, that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I don't know that I have one school or one place that stands out that much more than another. I think it was the teams that walked onto the floor that made the place a tough venue. It was tough going to Patrick Henry. I didn't like going to Patrick Henry. I simply always felt that they were right on top of us, and Dave was always prepared. And I would say this, Dave, if you weren't sitting here. And they really were a tough opponent, and that was a tough place for us to play. And I also like, the tournament venues, like we were talking about in this very beginning of this, when you would go to certain places, you knew it was going to be this or that, and now they've kind of just torn that to shreds, and you don't know where you're going, who you're playing against, what level it is, what division it is, and they've kind of taken that away. But I guess I would look more at people playing against, and then wherever they played, they were competitive.
Did you ever get any calls at Patrick Henry, Kevin, that you remember? Did you ever get any breaks or not? I know the answer to that.
And I know a situation you might be bringing up, but that's another topic for another day. It's up to you.
I made the long walk at Patrick Henry one night. Had a little disagreement with an official, and wouldn't you know that our locker room was clear across the gym, and the Patrick Henry faithful said nice things to me.
They always do.
I was glad that they were courteous and had wonderful things to say. But I got the heave-ho over there one time. But I'll tell you what, but that was not as big a deal as the call that I always remember, and Miller City people will always remember, was in the regional tournament in 1984 against Monroeville. And we had the lead in less than a minute to go, and we had a kid drive to the basket and make a shot and get fouled, and an official came in from clear out by half court and waved it off and called an illegal screen around the foul line and took it away, gave them the ball, took 2 or 3 points away from us. Well, I won't go play-by-play with you or anything, but they ended up winning the game and then won the state championship that year. And it was odd. It was one of those things that you just can't make this up. On Monday, I had the TV out, and I had the game on, watching it, and the old VCR thing, and I was watching the game, and a phone call came in, and it was the official who made the call. And he said, Coach, I heard a lot of negativity from people about that call. And he said, I just wanted you to know that was an absolutely correct call. There was that boy standing right between the foul line and the top of the key who set an illegal screen. And I had it on the screen in front of me right then. And I said a couple.
You were probably pretty
to
nice,
him.
weren't you?
I was very polite and cordial. But I said, I'm looking at it right now, and there is no one there. Wow. I don't know where that call came from. And he said, sometime I'm a salesman, and maybe I'll stop in sometime and see that then. And I said, feel free. I'll always have it in my office.
I'll make sure I have security here.
He never showed up.
Kevin, that had to sting. If you've coached long enough, you've had moments like that. I don't know of that magnitude. That one had to cut deep.
Kind of rub it in your nose, right?
Yeah, cool.
How long did it take to get over that one?
I'm not.
No. I don't think you could be. Man.
No, that was a tough one. And, the kids were playing so well at that time. We've all had teams that at the end of the year, you want to be playing your best basketball. And when you have those special teams, every game, they're better. Each game, I didn't think they could play that much better. And we were in that mode. We were just getting better every game. And it's a lot like that 2020 team we had that got canceled out for COVID. Every game, that team was getting better. That team was so good. And then this guy kind of took it away from us. And, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, you take away that year, in theory, you would have made another trip to Columbus or Dayton in this case. That'd have been 5 in a row. You don't have enough fingers.
2020 was and you talked about that on for your situation. For us, that would have been the first one, and we had a running clock in all 5 of our tournament games.
Right.
Just playing extremely well, and the part that just such a fun group. We graduated quite a few guys the year before, and I don't think people thought that team was. I was like, this team is good. It's like this team is really good, and they just had great chemistry, but. The icing on the cake, it was going to be at St. John's Arena that year, the state tournament.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, nothing against Evergreen, but I liked our chances to get there that year. I mean, we were just rolling, and just like I said, being somebody that was such a fan of the state tournament, having a chance to play at St. John's Arena with our crowd, that would have been something.
Man,
Yeah.
we could go on for a while, fellas. But
We could.
I think somebody's got a meeting.
8U baseball, man. I got to get dialed in for my son's baseball.
So you got a draft or something like that, or not?
We got to
not quite
figure out
yet.
how many games we're actually going to play.
Okay.
So he's
Square one.
Yeah.
He's an eight years old.
Yeah.
So if I can go do quick math, that's 6-7 years. He'll be a Titan.
Well, we'll see. That or in jail, one or the other.
Oh, well,
That's
it's
good
been
stuff.
fun.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you guys so much.
I appreciate
It's been a
it.
blast.
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
you guys. We've got to hand out our teams of the week here this week.
Okay, we
we
take
can
a
let
break
the
and come
McLaughlins
back
go.
and-
Yep, we can let them go. I know they got to get on their way. We'll come back and hand out our Gerken Company's rock solid performance this week.
Thank you. Anytime.
Who says a college degree is the only path to a fulfilling career? At the Gerken Companies, we offer rewarding livelihoods with or without a degree. Gerken provides a generous benefits package, continuous training, top-notch equipment, and a culture that rewards effort. We're looking for rock-solid performers to help build and reinforce the region's infrastructure. Whether you have construction experience or are just starting your career, apply now at gerkencompanies.com/careers. Hard-working individuals have been the heart of the Gerken Companies for generations. Together we construct the highways and infrastructure that strengthen our communities. Gerken is seeking rock-solid performers. We offer generous benefits, continuous training, top-notch equipment, and a culture that rewards effort. Want to be part of something big, steady, and stable with room to grow? Whether you're experienced or just starting your career, we encourage you to apply at gerkencompanies.com/careers.
Welcome back to the Black Swan Basketball Podcast presented by the Gerken Companies. Boy, the McLaughlins were great. We've had some fantastic guests this season, and they didn't disappoint either.
No, and boy, you know, Tyson's part of the younger generation, obviously, but you get the generation of, you know, the Kevin McGlaughlins, the guys we've had on here. Kevin McGlaughlin, we've had Kirk Lehman, we've had Doug Krause, obviously Dave Krause, and that's a different generation, man, and love having those guys.
What I like about the new generation, the Tysons, and Greg Baton up right in town here. These guys, they have that same mentality. I don't know if they've just in their own mind have officials are bad. I'm not even going to waste my time on them because none of them get after them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't to the extent that the older group did, and I think that's a positive thing for the game. I mean, I think they might realize that, hey, officials have a hard time. We don't have many of them. We can't lose more. So maybe they've gotten together and said, let's just kind of just coach our teams, and that's probably the way it should be. And we never learned that lesson that well. So.
No, because honestly, Krause, I think
It was
back
part
to
of the show, right?
Well, it was an art form.
Yeah, and it was,
I mean, seriously, working an official was like a science. I mean, everybody who ever saw Holgate play growing up remembers Wayno stomping and, him working the officials. This guy would work the officials, I'm telling you.
And you get the opposing fans going, too.
Yeah.
Wayno get that foot stomp. Oh, man, the other fans would just go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's to defend us old guys, dinosaurs, that's what we all heard. We heard Al McGuire on TV, hey, you got to work the officials. You got to work the officials, and if you weren't, one guy was and one guy wasn't, you were getting a disadvantage. So, that's what you were taught.
Who was the best? Who was the best at working the officials?
Wayno's right there. Wayno's right there.
Could you hang with Wayno?
You almost had to. You had to try. I'm not saying I was.
Who was your mentor on how to?
Well, if I went back to mentors, Steve Kick, as Kevin alluded to, I don't think he ever got teed. He was a gentleman. I don't think he ever even stood up hardly. I mean, that was the Bob Arns and those guys, Ron Niekamp, they didn't do it. So I should have watched them more, learned something from them better, but, in terms of a mentor, in terms of coaching, that Steve Kick was, you learned, you do what you learn, and from there, it was just different guys that I maybe worked camps with and stole things from. And, I was fortunate. And that's one thing I miss. Coaches today don't get that opportunity to work camps to really network with other coaches, not to get better jobs, but to learn from other coaches and what works and what doesn't work. And I was fortunate enough to go to 3 or 4 camps a summer and just spend a week with just really, really high-level coaches.
What were some of the better camps in your mind, Coach Krause?
I worked Ohio State's camp for I was still a freshman coach in my second year of coaching, and our head coach got an application to work the Ohio State camp. And so I said, hey, Bob, run me off a copy of that. So I fill it out, not thinking I'd ever get, Eldon Miller was a coach, I'm not thinking I'd ever get a chance to get invited. And sure enough, I got invited to work this camp at Ohio State, Eldon Miller's crew, and wow, I was in St. John Arena for a week. And on that first night of camp, when the campers go back to their bedrooms and dorms, and the coaches got done with their extracurricular activities, I am in St. John Arena by myself at midnight shooting hoops and living every dream we dreamed up in the backyard.
Yeah.
Me and a ball in St. John Arena. Now that was life right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to hand out our good company's teams of the week. It's getting a little easier for us as we're winding down. We have 2 area girls teams playing this week down in Dayton, and then we just have 1 boys team from this immediate area.
With the boys team, they win.
Yeah.
They had a great game.
Toledo St. Francis, yeah.
Well, I'm talking.
Well, you go
Arlington.
You go Arlington if you want to go even further.
I think both.
I
think both of those schools. If we can just, I can't pick one or the other because St. Francis beating Winton Woods is big time upset, and I would equal Arlington's win over St. John's was just as unexpected, but really because they were a big underdog but they didn't play like it. Boy, they played their game great. Jason Vermillion did an unbelievable job, and I'm sure Jamie Kaczmarek up at St. Francis did the same because they weren't expected to win that game either. So I could go with either one or share it and give half the cookies of this team and half the cookies of this team. I don't.
You have any opinion, Coach Strack?
Well, what Arlington did was unbelievable to me. I mean, I don't think anyone saw that coming except the folks in that locker room, which is all that matters. But, it was unbelievable, and kudos to St. Francis, too. I mean, we saw a lot of really good basketball teams in this area get bounced over the last week, So for those 2 to be the lone survivors, I could do
We'll
either
just make them both.
or
We'll
both.
let them share, just like we're going to have to do the girls, because Anthony Wayne and Columbus Grove will both already won it.
And
but
we've
they're
we've
gonna
talked
have to-
about both of those teams throughout the course of the year. We hadn't really talked much about Jason's team
No.
at Arlington and
No.
or Jamie's team.
Yeah.
No.
So it's kind of neat that they've still survived and are still living another day and will represent our area well.
I would agree with that.
And the girls they're down in Dayton, and they're where they want to be, and got a chance.
Yep, Columbus Grove. That was to me just an unbelievable tournament win. Not all divisions and tournament paths are created equal. And when you have to go through Minster, like you get almost to the mountaintop, and then there's mighty Minster waiting for you at the Elida Fieldhouse. Your odds aren't great. You've got to have a special player, which they do in Lauren Auchmoody, and then she's got a ton of complimentary pieces around her. And I listened to that entire game on the radio. And for Grove to get that done, you talk about punching their ticket to UD Arena and earning it. You beat Minster in the regional final. You earned it.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the coach's daughter that made the key foul shots that sent them, right?
Yep.
Brian's daughter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They play Rootstown at Dayton Arena Saturday 2 p.m. and then Anthony Wayne against Winton Woods on Friday at 7:30 in the D2 state championship.
Little known fact. Where's Rootstown located?
We've talked about Rootstown, Krause. We've talked about
Our
it.
audience say Eastern Ohio. He's right on.
He
but
would know.
Give me a little bit more specific. North of Akron and right next door to Kent. Well, who went to Kent? I did.
Yeah.
Who did a student teaching at Rootstown?
Oh.
I did. Yeah. I was a rover for a year.
Okay,
or a quarter.
That's where I heard it from you before.
I
Okay.
was a Rootstown rover.
I'll be darned. Huh. You're well traveled, Krause.
I've been around.
Yeah.
I'll be
Okay.
darned.
Huh.
It's a small world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Toledo St. Francis plays Westerville North. That game is on Sunday night, actually.
Down in Dayton.
Down
right
at
State?
the Nutter Center at
Yeah.
Wright State, 6 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Sunday action the last
Yeah.
few weeks, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
then
think-
Arlington gets Russia, 27-0.
Ooh.
Russia. That is Friday at Bowling Green at 8:30 p.m.
You talk about catching lightning in a bottle. If you could knock off St. John's and Russia, you talk
I
about
think that was the game
earning
that
it.
everybody was
Yeah.
going to be the state championship. Was
Yeah.
that one?
Sure it
and
was.
D7.
Well, the thing that Arlington did so well was obviously their 6'10" kid who averaged 10 points a game had the game of his year anyway, and 22, 23 points, and he played a well of a game.
Mm-hmm.
But more so defensively, he was a factor because they played a really
I heard they played a
aggressive-
2-3 zone.
It's a really
My St.
aggressive
John's connection
2-3
told me,
zone,
yeah.
and talking with mentioned after the game, Wayno was doing his dissecting of the game, and he equaled Arlington's effort by their perimeter players, their guards particularly, to Napoleon's guards back from their state championship year. How active they were, and how they got after pressure wise and defensively. So, and he's not too far from being right on there. So that's how they play their zone, and because they've got an anchor inside and a guy that can raise some shots, and affect shots. So he that's a really well-oiled machine down there, and they'll give Russia a good game.
Okay. They're going to have a chance in the second half, you think?
I would think they would have.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that Russia team, I've seen a little bit on them. Boy, they're
solid.
They're good.
They're really good.
Yeah. Any thoughts on state champions, girls or boys side, Coach Krause?
I'd have to plead ignorant. I'm hoping for the two Northwest Ohio teams to go down and get it done. I'm rooting hard for Anthony Wayne girls and the Grove ladies, and that would be awesome. Pick up two of those 7.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
I like both of their
You think
chances.
they're both going to win?
I would, if I were a betting man, I would bet on both of
Winton
them.
Woods is 27-0.
Yep. That one will be a 4-quarter game, but Anthony Wayne, man, boy, they're so balanced and so fundamentally sound. It's not as dominant as Anthony Wayne's been. It's just so hard to get that gold trophy, as you know, Dave.
D1 girls state championship, Pickerington Central against Cincinnati Princeton, Saturday at 8:30.
Now, I watched that game at Mansfield
Oh,
when
you
they
did?
played the team from Cleveland. What was Magnificent? Magnificent had this game won. I mean, they're shooting foul shots at the end of the game, up 2, and all they had to do is make one. They missed I think 4 in a row. And on the rebound, or maybe they made it. I can't remember. To make a long story short, the girl gets the ball and takes it right to the rim and scored the tying bucket and put it in overtime. That's how, Central,
Wow.
Pick Central is able to basically survive,
Yeah.
get a late bucket just by going coast to coast.
Wow.
Nobody stopped
Yeah.
her, and she just took advantage of it and scored it.
Wow.
So that's how sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. D2 Anthony Wayne 24-2 against Winton Woods. That's Friday at 7:30. D3 Avon Lake, Cincinnati Purcell Marion Friday at 1. Division 4 Bellevue 27-1 against Archbishop Alder. That's Friday at 4:15. And the D5 game, Creston Norwayne 23-5 against Portsmouth. That is Saturday at 10:45. Rootstown and Columbus Grove Saturday at 2. As I mentioned, D7 Girls State Championship is Waterford and Fort Loramie Saturday at 5:15.
That'll be a slugfest too.
They've met before.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez, oh, Pete.
Yeah,
Yeah, they know each other well.
Maybe some of the on the boys' side state semifinals. How about the Division 6? We may be getting a football game that most people would like to see in the state championship. Kirtland and Marion Local,
Local, yeah.
How about
if
that?
they're both able to get victories this week. Colonel Crawford 25-1. They play Marion Local in D6 in that matchup.
Coached by a Bluffton Beaver, right? Crawford?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we were texting after Patrick Henry got knocked out the other night. I told Coach Sheldon, one of my good college buddies, told him I was looking forward to watching him coach against the Patriots. That wasn't going to happen. And then I texted him Saturday morning and wished him luck against the T-Birds.
Yeah.
So, he was a good Bluffton Beaver.
Yeah. He's got a nice team. He's got a real good point guard, and then he's got a big boy that holds his own in the middle
Yeah.
and does a good job around the rim. And so I like his chances there too. I mean, they'll have a tough game against Marion Local,
Yeah.
but who doesn't?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thanks so much. We'll be back next week for our kind of our season ender.
Okay.
Sounds good.
We're going to do some NCAA tournament picks if you're good with that.
Ooh.
Do we have a guest lined up? Can we get a guest, or you just want to?
We'll probably find somebody.
We're gonna put out our NCAA tournament pool again. We'll do the Tory Strock special, cheddar brats
There,
for the winner
yeah.
of our
Ooh,
bracket.
Wow. I like that.
Bracket winner, and we usually do a $50 gift card as well.
That's
We'll do
awesome.
next week. So
All right.
get ready for that and get your picks in for our bracket. And you guys you're eligible too. If one of us wins.
Okay.
Dude, I'll tell you what, I flirted with winning that sucker last year.
I don't remember that.
Oh, I
Was
finished
you- I don't remember.
I finished way up there.
You
I
did? Are you sure about that? Did you
yeah.
even enter your teams?
I know who I spanked. Let's just put it that way.
I don't remember how I did a year ago.
Yeah,
That
I
probably-
do remember. But I also remember this. There was a lot of participation.
There was. We had quite
Yes.
a few, I think.
Yes,
maybe
we
over
did.
100 that were
Well, I had-
involved.
So you put it out on
It's just
a
on
link?
ESPN, and
Okay.
yeah, you can share it. And
Yeah,
Okay.
we had
Keeps track of it.
a ton of students at Napoleon.
That's right.
A lot of those kids got in it, and there's no fee or anything,
Right.
but it's
Yeah, if you want to take some of Black Swamp's money,
Yeah.
you're going to have to win. If not, it'll stay with one of you guys. Well, I'll have to pay one of you guys too. But if I win, it goes to me.
that's right. I'd say
know.
you earned it. You
Yeah,
earned it.
Yes, you have.
Thanks so much for listening this week. Thank you to the Gerken Companies and also American Freedom Energy here in Liberty Center. We'll be back next week. Have a great week, everybody.